this best of 3 that we do have tonight. We'll have to see where the focus does lie in the draft.
As we make our way into the first draft here for the Telecom War, Sejuani immediately going to get taken away. A pick that not only is Cuz extremely strong at, but also combines so well with many of the champions that KT like to play on the top half of the map. I expect T1 to try and look and secure an advantageous bot lane matchup. Aphelios is a pick that kind of feels like a no-brainer, trying to enable Guma to get that, and a B on Aphelios seems obvious, but then you look at what is still available. Nico, still not taken away just yet, and it's that, or LeBlanc, or Aphelios that are going to be open, so I wouldn't be surprised if KT just decide to go and throw a ban somewhere else entirely to try and ensure that at least they can get a good trade.
Yeah, they can get 2 out of those 3, and I think you just leave Aphelios up because they already banned 2 of the enchanters that are best with it. Lulu's still around, and you don't have to play an enchanter, but either way, it's Poppy, which has been Oner's big jungle pick as of late, so they're going to take that away, and they leave a lot of OP stuff open.
And that answers our question. It is going to be the Nico most highly prioritized. There is, of course, a flex pick if you want to go in that direction. And despite all the shivving that has been going on, the Annie still remains at the forefront of the meta. Incredibly strong when it comes to team fighting.
Turns out on-command AoE stun is pretty good.
It is.
Instant. Yeah. And you can flash and make it happen instantly. And there she is. Annie will be locked in. Do they also grab LeBlanc is another question.
I would expect them to maybe pick away the Aphelios here, if that is the direction that they want to go into. But no, it's going to be the Zeri instead, aiming, obviously, more comfortable on this. I'd say his Aphelios has been fine, but not really to the level of a lot of the other players that we've seen. But that does mean that T1 might be looking to get their hands on it here. With either a Nautilus or a Lulu. Alternatively,
just LeBlanc.
Just Renekton. Like what? Renekton?
LeBlanc, Cassante.
Oh my god.
There's so much stuff left open.
I wouldn't actually mind a Renekton Cassante 1-2 here if Oner can play the Nico. Because that sounds like
I hope he can.
Insane topside. And Faker, his Cassante, has been absolutely incredible. And for KT, this puts him in a little bit of an awkward spot, because I think ideally you'd want to try and lock your Renekton counter, the Quinn, in, but that does mean that Lahens is going to be somewhat limited in what he can pick up. We'll see, because I think it's 100% getting banned. After how well they played as with a Kindred instead, a Gragas pick to me seems off the charts here for KT. It's a really good matchup into the Renekton, and it also deals very well with some of the nuisances that Kindred might provide. But it also means that Keen will not have a matchup where he actually counters his opponent. It's more about neutralizing. And it looks like instead they want to secure a good jungler here for Cuz. The Annie and Viego is a combination we've seen many a time. Really explosive in the early to mid game, and Zeri works well with that as well.
Yeah, a lot of resetting, a lot of overwhelming power in team fights, especially if you can get it going on your terms. And with the Annie, that's what they're hoping for. I wonder, though, have they given up too much? And I'm surprised that we didn't see any focus on the LeBlanc at all, actually. But we also, in the first series, we didn't see Cassante picked or banned at all. So it does feel like a lot of the teams here kind of saying, okay, well, it's strong, but it's not game-breaking. We're not going to focus on that top pick or even that flex pick really at all here compared to some of the other stuff in the meta, as it is a meta in flex with many, many powerful picks nowadays.
Rakan already taken away. Do they ban Quinn? That is my main question, given the clinic that Keen put on last time around. And the Viego, I think it works well with the Annie, but into Kindred specifically, I do think the pick can kind of struggle. Like post-6, the ability to get resets consistently is going to really be diminished, and Kindred's really good at staying out of effective range of the Viego. We often see teams also ban away Kindred if they're looking to go towards a Viego, so Cuz going to be in a bit of a tough position for that one, as 2 of Guma's most iconic champions, his Aphelios and his Draven, will be taken off the board here. It makes a ton of sense, because what remains here for T1, there are picks like the Xayah, picks like the Jinx, which are okay, but you're not going to be extremely excited. But it's going to be Lulu taken away here, as opposed to that Quinn.
He's just going to play Gragas. Yeah, like you were highlighting before, it's a great matchup in Renekton, and any way you can deal with the Kindred, you have a lot of team fight setup. Ooh. Kaisa. I don't feel like, I mean...
Kaisa Nautilus?
Okay.
Yeah. We've seen Ruler pick this up to, frankly, superb effect. Was able to have an incredible set of games on the Kaisa. And how is KT going to round it out here? Braum would make sense into specifically the Nautilus. Don't know if that is really what you want hands on, though.
Alistair, okay. So Alistair makes his way back in. I feel like we had a spot yesterday where we were like, Alistair's probably a little bit better than the Blitzcrank here. And, you know, Lehens has played his hand at Blitzcrank. Definitely not the kind of comp you want to play Blitzcrank into on the other side. But the Alistair coming up bit by bit. We'll see if it does work out for them. Definitely a lot of, you know, frontline and hard engage on the side of T1 that Alistair could potentially mitigate here.
Yeah, and when it comes to hard forcing, like both these comps are going to be looking to play on the offensive, right? We have on one hand, T1, kind of self-explanatory. You have decent team fighting between the lockdown, the Nico AoE ultimate, and some of the early to mid-game threat that the Renekton provides. Then on the other end, it is very short range with what I expect to be strong front to back, because it should be a tank Gragas, but very short range, very reliant on the initial initiation. And against Kindred in particular, they do have two great tools between the Gragas and the Alistair, both of which can get people out of Kindred ultimates. But that does mean that a lot of those tools will be used to try and mitigate the impact of just Oner. And at the very least, Valdez, I think we're in for some fireworks. Because if this, with these two drafts, this game goes on a tedious pace, I will be shocked.
I will be disappointed if that happens again, as it did earlier on today. Hopefully we get some fireworks here in this second matchup, as certainly the picks do lend itself towards it, and so does the matchup. T1 up against KT Rolster, the telecom war. Let's jump into it. Here we are back on the Rift. It's Faker on Nico this time around. We've seen, I think the most recent one was Canyon picking that up in the jungle.
Yeah.
At least one of the recent ones. And he took over the game entirely. It wasn't necessarily a even matchup in terms of the teams, but definitely will be interesting to see what Faker can get done on this pick as it makes its way through draft again.
I also wonder what build Guma is going to go for, because we have actually seen a fair amount of variety with the Kaisa. We've seen the Kaisa mid, which goes for the Shiv and then goes into more of an AP build path. Obviously, can also just go for the classic style or Kaisa build, where you go Kraken Slayer and just try to really put the hurts to your opponent early on, as BDD with his Molten Shield gets a fine trade. Also going for first strike here, as opposed to Airy, which is what we've seen mostly. And Keria going to be placing a ward early. Will get spotted, though.
Yeah, he was on a ward the entire time, so they were kind of wondering what they were going to do about him. But he just goes in, places a late ward, and will back away. This Glacial Augment does have the Hex Flash as well, so we'll have to look at that. So does Lehens, unsurprisingly. And level 1 hook. Alistair not the greatest at level 1, but he can do that exactly, at least.
Yeah, procced Aftershock, so Lehen's not going to be too bothered here. And based on the rune sets, Guma actually going for Scorch and Mana Flow, so we'll see. Leans needs to believe that he might be going towards an AP build as another hook.
Okay, level 2 as well. Looking, but the hook is down for 6 more seconds.
Yeah, this is Cole's area as well, and Guma went Doran's Blade. So you would expect the T1 bot lane to really try and push as much as humanly possible. Although Keria hooking a minion not really going to help in that regard.
This is Keria's fun moments, by the way. He's on the Nautilus.
It's his happy champion.
Yeah, it's his happy place. Nico played by Faker many times, and that ward timing is so unfortunate for Cuz. Although Oner is going to get over the wall into the Krugs. It's okay, well, he's not on red. He's pulling it out. He'll smite it away. Oner on the Kindred, unbothered. Can always hop the wall if need be. And yeah, Faker has played this Nico actually 10 times already in pro play. And his use of the passive is one of the best we have ever seen with the Nico. So I'm very much looking forward to him playing this pick, because the stuff he can do with it, especially with the chains, is amazing. But here is Cuz. He's going to be blasted back as the follow-up from Oner. He is chasing down the Viego, who does have that extra movement speed. Here comes BDD. Just going to throw an Incinerate in Oner's face, and Cuz gets out with a sliver of health.
Oh, and this right here is the reason why the Viego often doesn't want to match up into the Kindred, right? Early on, even with Oner having Conquer as opposed to something like PTA, which really amps up the level 3 power spike, you're not really able to contest. And now we see Keria and Guma also ensuring that Cuz doesn't get a cross-map scuttler. And there's also the mark. So makes Oner's pathing a little bit awkward, because ideally he'd want to go to his mark as soon as he can, but then his topside jungle is still up, so we'll see what pathing he ends up going, and it might just be up to Guma and Keria to try and leverage this, because Cuz is now full health, so he'll be able to make his way back. But the early presence here, 41, looking to get some aggression towards the KT jungle.
Definitely a lot of shenanigans already, as we take about 3 seconds to look at the top lane and note that it is Gragas versus Renekton. And now we're back to Cuz down on the bottom side. He's taking the mark away. Oner not going to bother trying to run over there or anything. Has better things to do, such as clearing out the rest of his jungle.
Yeah, and Oner will be able to clear now towards his bottom side as well. So he's going to have a pretty substantial CS advantage. I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to turn that into a play towards an early dragon. Would be a good way for T1 to kind of start and set the pace. Because as mentioned, there's, I think, a lot of scaling elements on either side. I think the Nico, obviously, when it comes to team fighting, does really well. Kai'Sa, when she reaches late game scenario, can really get a lot going, although the amount of space that will be given by the KT comp is somewhat lackluster. And then obviously you have Zeri on the opposing end. You have a really good front line with Alistar and the Gragas as well. So there is plenty of opportunity for KT there as well. But whichever comp gets ahead is going to make the life of their opponents really hard, because of the amount of lockdown there is on either side. If you lose control of the map and you're going to have to face tank, you know, like Lahens can probably survive it, but he's going to have to use his ult. He's going to have to take a lot of pain trying to do so. And on T1 side, like, maybe Keria can at most, but keeping control of the river, control of the objectives is huge.
Dominus here. Keen does have Cask if he feels it necessary, but he's just going to walk it off. Doesn't really feel bothered by that. Zeus trying to take an aggressive trade, but as we all know, Gragas has fantastic sustain and will be fine to hang out in the lane for the future. Okay. Well, that was a a bear thrown down for nothing. Maybe can push Faker away a little bit. But
and with that, there might be an opportunity here for T1 to try and play aggressively, although Guma is catching wave right now, so Keria can't be caught.
He is going to get caught up here a little bit, as the follow-up stun not going to come through, and Exhaust used as well. He will trade his flash for it, just to make sure that he is not caught. And in fact, he will be just fine. But now no flash on Keria. Will have to rely on his Hex Flash.
Win for KT. They needed one because, again, BDD not having his ultimate is quite big. But now on the follow-up play, Keria is going to be fine. Didn't actually end up going down. It looks like Guma is at the very least going to go for Shiv. So would not be surprised if this ends up being a Nashor's variety of the Kai'Sa here. Something that we haven't really seen since the AP Kai'Sa, which I think we were all glad was gone relatively soon after it rose to prominence.
It's in the realm of very old Nidalee, right? Where just one spear could just end it.
Yeah.
Old Corki, where the big one, the missile, could just end somebody's life. Old Zeri as well, right? With
W
crit W's.
Yeah, that was fun. Let's hold up. 6 advantage.
Okay, Aiming really going to try to press the advantage as goes onto the minion. Guma will have to flash away. The stun comes in on a Keria who does not have his flash, but he will be just fine. Lahen's not 6 himself. And it's a trade, but at the end of the day, okay. Cuz is looking to pressure in here, has his bottom lane. Here comes Faker as it's fighting away. Cuz just gonna take it down. And Faker, he elects to stand around and be alone here. Oner not able to help him. Might just be 2 kills as Oner will get zapped over the wall by Aiming, who picks up 2 kills. Absolutely a Zeri moment in this game.
Absolutely colossal win for KT there. 2 kills going over to Aiming. Doesn't even have to invest his summoners. And T1's decision to try and hard force a dragon, even not taking into account the fact that, right, Cuz gets an opportunity to smite it. When your bot lane has just hard lost to 2v2, yeah, they're alive, but they're not really going to be able to contest even remotely, is baffling. And KT doing a wonderful job here, getting Aiming ahead. And now, are we just going to see this repeated? We do have full rotations coming up, but Aiming isn't there, so T1 should be up a member.
Yeah, Aiming is just going bot, so that hook is going to miss on the Hens too. So I think T1 just gets this. It kind of looks like KT are posturing maybe for the steal, but they're not really attempting to actually contest this. So yeah, just going to wait for that barrel to timeout, and there's the ice. Oner does pick that up, and at least T1 will be able to trade that back, but still, it's not just the Drake, it is the 2 kills, the first blood, both of them going on to Aiming on Zeri, and he doesn't go up for the fight, so he's getting free plates as well.
And it's going to be an absolutely monumental gold lead here, and this is really well done by KT, because it also shows us that as Aiming picks up a second plate there, they're not as reliant as we might have thought coming into this match, as Faker gets an ult down on only Cuz, who is not enough damage even remotely. Oner also does not seem to be on the same page. Tries desperately to get out and then is unable to get out. I love Lahens, man. I love Lahens.
If you ever need a cheerleader on top of a fantastic support,
this man.
You can rely on Lahens.
Oh.
And yeah, he is going to be really happy with that. I mean, Cuz single-handedly carried that one when I watched the replay again. Like, he smited it away. He 1v1's Faker. Obviously, he had some help. And then he is able to land the Nico stuff, stolen Nico, onto Oner, who's just kind of standing there waiting like, oh, I didn't know we were fighting this. So T1, the coordination, the communication is not there. They lose the fight. They lose the 2 kills. And now KT are just running away with this early game.
And it's going to be up to T1 to try and figure out a way to deal with the Zeri. Now, when it comes to the lockdown, they have a Nautilus ultimate, which is one of the more reliable ways, but outside of that, like, ways to actually get on top of Aiming are kind of rough. And one of the reasons why the Kai'Sa in the past was a really coveted pick into things like Xayah or Ezreal is because her ability to get on top of a target and then burst them down is matched by very few AD carries. But into Bruiser Zeri...
She's Trinity Force.
Yeah, she's Trinity Force.
It's 11 minutes into the game.
It's a fight of Trinity versus a Shiv. I'm saying the 2-0 Zeri of Trinity wins.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, but that's a 1.5K gold lead.
Production's on the same page. And yeah, I mean, he got the call as well. Guma did not elect to go for the call himself.
Yeah.
So that's just extra on top of everything. That's like the, you know, the garlic topping that you get on top of the, on top of the pizza, right?
What's your garlic? As
the garlic topping is my garlic.
The garlic sauce is a good choice as well.
Yeah.
Garlic sauce is really nice. Oner is also only sitting on a single mark.
Uh-oh, here comes Zeri. Keria has to flash away. That's just Aiming, pressing a couple of buttons. And now Keria's on half health, down a flash. And that is the second time now that Keria has to just use that defensively just to survive. So not really going to feel too good about that one, as the Rift Herald will be dropped down. At least they might be able to give some gold over to Faker and to Oner here. Keep in mind that the trade was Zeri got a couple of plates down on the bottom side.
Hands on a journey.
Oh, Oner, which direction? Oh, God. Oh, they hit the red buff.
Yeah, he should know. Okay.
Well, he's wrapping around again, and yeah, he's just going to let that red buff go down.
That would have been very egregious, given the fact that, like, bot lane is missing, jungle is there, I don't know where BDD is. And it's going to be a lane swap attempt here from T1. Doesn't look like KT are clued into it yet, otherwise aiming might have looked to get a little bit more pressure, as there is vision here. So it's going to be spotted now. Next Herald is still 2 minutes away. And we'll see what T1 is actually able to get out of this. Because right now, in the early game, it's KT taking full control. And as mentioned, of all the people to have the gold on, Zeri is without a shadow of a doubt the best person. And
ooh, I like this. They're trying to set up for a dive here, or at least some pressure on the top side, but Lehens is waiting to actually keep Keen safe. And so they leave Zeri alone against Renekton, which is not a lane you see every day. And it's Keen and Lehens together up on the top side. So Cuz going to take down the second Drake. It's Chemtech Soul, which we have not seen. We had 3 Infernal Souls in the first series. As here's Cuz. Now this is a 2v1. The stun not going to land, but is the damage enough? Heartbreaker comes in. And this is a Renekton, even without an item, is feeling pretty good. Lehens has to throw out his Unbreakable Will and flash away, so he kind of gets caught as well.
yeah, trying to go in on the Renekton, maybe not the best call. No real harm done. Cuz does have to flash, and crucially, aiming as his summoners available. If he had to use flash or cleanse, things would have been, I think, a bit more dire, because it makes a follow-up play for T1 great. On the flip side, T1 is able to force an ultimate, force some defensive cooldowns from Lehens, but not going to get the kill either. Chasing after a Gragas is not really going to be very successful, as Merc Tread's value for T1 through the roof. See them picked up by 4 out of the 5 members as of right now, between Keen, right, with his body slam, Cuz with his stun, and BDD being the Annie. A lot of value there.
Yeah, definitely a good idea. And it's kind of interesting, this first game, the way this first game has went, because we talked so much about, okay, Guma and Keria, they're so strong. That's where T1's strengths really lie. Obviously, the other players are great, but it's all about the bot lane. And then we talk about KT's top lane. But actually, this game, the early game and mid game, will be shaped around how strong aiming is out of all 10 players. And the fact that we did have that jungle fight over the dragon and all of that to get this Zeri fed.
And it speaks, I think, as well to the fact that KT is a team that can be multi-dimensional. Obviously, we've seen a lot of topside carry performances, but Cuz finds Faker.
Yeah, one-on-one. Faker, he's going up against double buff Diego here. Heartbreaker not committed to. Definitely could have tried for that. Probably would have been the kill, but either way, just going to play it safe. Doesn't know what's on the other side. As Zeri ult thrown out, just trying to push them away. The benefit of the doubt there, and that's just fine. As Keria is going to flash in place with this Hex Flash, and KT, with this pressure, will take the second Rift Herald.
And second Herald going to be taken. Zeus preemptively using Dominus, aiming, not really hitting the mark with that Zeri ultimate, but again, thanks to Cuz on this Viego, a pick that, again, was set behind early, and was expected to somewhat struggle into the Kindred, is showing his dominance here today again. Looking good. Proactive play, sets up the Herald here, and yep, that is a 1,400 gold lead to come through here from aiming. And it will indeed be the AP variant from Guma, as we mentioned. And to be fair, you have Renekton, you have Kindred, plenty of AD damage. Itemization for KT is still going to be something where they need to itemize either way. Can't just go full MR or armor. And for T1, we talked about their ability to set up very explosive fights, and we're going to need to see some of that, because right now it's KT that has the prio. In most lanes, KT is up 2 dragons to 0, got the second Herald as well. And everything thus far has been coming up KT, but T1 at least remains within touching distance.
Yeah. Zoning away the bear. Taunting it, perhaps. BDD has to flash away from this one, as they're still trying to get in there. The root not going to land, but now that's flash away from the Annie. Taken away by Faker and Oner up there on the top side, but they will use this moment with the jungler up top to throw down the Rift Herald in mid and take down the mid tier 1 at 17.5 minutes and try to pressure on the map and continue with their lead.
Going to further solidify that gold lead with the first brick and setting up for Drake. Now, T1 can just forgo this one. I think out of all the souls, Camtech's the one where you're like, can let that one go if you don't really want to contest. And looking at the state of the items, I don't think T1 is looking all too excited. But then the question beckons, does it become all that much better? And I think a lot of it boils down to execution, particularly from Guma. How can he pilot this Kai'Sa? How much impact can he have in later game teamfights? Because looking at what KT have, right? Again, the front line, the ways you have to enable aiming are incredible. And even though KT has not been a bot side focused team, I'd imagine that when you have Lahans and Keen on tanks and aiming is a fed Zeri, they'll be able to pivot. I think they'll be fine.
I think they'll be fine.
I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. Faker's trying to put up as much pressure as possible up on the top side. We haven't seen too many shenanigans from him, not a lot of like minion plays or any craziness, right? It's a little bit more difficult to get really tricky with that, especially if you're behind a little bit. As KT are going to take down this Drake. Doesn't look like T1 seemed to care too much. Guma maybe looking for the W steal. Gonna throw it in and help leash it. But yeah, this is not the Infernal Soul we saw in the first series, so it's just a free Chemtech Drake that doesn't really amount to too much. And so KT will just hold on to this very small lead, and the longer the game goes on, yes, the Zeri will be incredibly strong, but you know, a 2,000 gold lead with 10 minutes into the game compared to a 2,000 gold lead 25 minutes into the game. Definitely feels bigger, and it gets smaller and smaller as the game goes along. So if nothing happens and we sit at 2-0, we might just get a pretty interesting and somewhat even mid-game.
And I was expecting, and I felt like I was promised violence, Valdez, and that it's not really, it's not really coming through.
I feel like the onus is kind of on KT, though. I mean, there's nothing really for them to force it on, though. You know, we're going to have to wait at least 5 minutes, I think. We do have the Baron, though, that is spawning, so maybe that can make something happen, Chronicler.
Maybe. We'll see. Up on the
lot of damage.
Not expecting to see, as you point out, too much happen. Side turrets, though, would be nice to take down. KT already have gained themselves a large amount of map control by getting this mid with the second Herald charge, but if you can take down the outers as well and really start to cut into the territory where T1 can reliably go, would be big. Oner should be able to pick up another mark here. I don't know how much he's sitting on right now. Might still be one, maybe he picked up a second at some point, but no, still just one mark. So this is going to be big at getting him to the point where he actually does become a champion. Because right now, we're not quite there. Triforce components are on the way here for him, but gonna be a decent amount of time, particularly with the Kindred not really getting anything in the early game outside of the red buff and some Krugs, which not really enough.
Yeah, he's had 2 marks of 4, which is that moment. Oh man, Mega Cone. And it wasn't even a real Nico. After all of that, so we're clearing out all the vision. Double big Scryer's Bloom, Mega Bloom. As everybody's hiding in the Pixel Brush.
We're just waiting. Because everyone knows, you see that 1 health ward and you're like, they're gonna lost him. There was no way they let that live. And they're not.
Yeah.
Oh. Eventually it becomes like, have I waited long enough? Is it happening now? And the answer is no.
Well, they waited for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Nobody came by. They were not fooled. And now with the 3 of them pushing in, they can reclaim some vision here in the river. So we get a little bit of vision back and forth action.
Yeah.
Love it.
So the action.
High
We're gonna get Valdez!
High octane vision control.
I got all this energy and it's got nowhere to go. You know, I'm coming up, I ran over here. I had to take off the jersey and the beanie, and it was It was a whole thing, and I sit down like, look at these proactive compositions. We have a lot of CC, a lot of lockdown, a lot of team fighting power. Surely something will happen.
Yeah. I just wonder what it means, right? Like,
What does it mean?
what do these teams mean by this, you know? I feel like it kind of made more sense in the first series, given those scenarios, until, of course, the Infernal Drakes became a contesting point. But in this one, I don't know. KT seemed very fine with it.
I mean, again, I think that for either team, you can make an argument there that they're fine just letting it scale. Like, T1's team fighting has been great, and they do have plenty of tools to both lock down some of the members. In particular, their team fighting around Nautilus, I think, has been great. They're really able to utilize the explosive potential of the pick. But then, obviously, on the flip side, as Cuz gets another smite. The man does not relent. And so does Aiming get the red buff, which is a double win.
And it's right before the Chemtech Soul fight.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to fight over the Chemtech Soul, right?
No, I think T1's going to just run towards Nash.
That's also a good thing, right? I think.
That's normal minion behavior.
Trying to. Why is he so fast? And why is he following everybody else?
I mean, he teleported in. I don't. As far as I'm aware, minions have not gained the technology yet.
Not yet, yeah.
One day.
It's coming in League of Legends 3. Faker is dancing.
Oh. And they make their way towards the river here. Aiming wanted to get it back, and he has GA for this fight. Absolutely monstrous power spike here. Gonna have to kill the Zeri twice, VODS.
Pretty ridiculous. I mean, for a fight like this, is holding on to the bear. He's gonna get the flash again out of Keria, who has not been able to use that aggressively in this game. Just has not happened. It's T1 maneuvering over.
Two in a row.
Yeah, looking for this is Faker. He gets the big knockup onto the front line. Kane is taking a ton of damage, but aiming on half health as well. T1 have done a good job of poking them down so far. But Dominus is down now. Zeus is going to have to teleport into this fight. It's the damage from the Drake actually pretty significant. Here come the TPs back into the fight as BDD also taking some damage. Keen trying to front line for this one as a big skirmish up on the top side. Lahen's getting to the back line, but he dies immediately. And they have overextended as Zeus gets into the back line. And Aiming is going insane, though. They have not locked down this Zeri at all as they take away the front line of KT, but they do not deal with the Zeri as Aiming is going into the Lamster's fight and will burst them down alongside a BDD. They wipe T1 off the map to a quadra kill of Aiming.
And Aiming gets unchecked throughout that entire fight. The Zeri doesn't even get her GA popped, VODS. And that is going to be the soul there. The initial blow for T1 successful. But then on the re-engage, they're unable to actually get the damage necessary without pop loss. A lot of the teamfight power is missing. And it would be hilarious if Aiming his GA actually got procced off of that one, but not going to be the case. And it starts off. But look, who are you actually hitting here? It's not Aiming and it's not BDD. So Keen able to survive, Lahen's able to survive, but then thanks to continuous poke from Guma, it looks like T1 is able to reclaim control. But then, the moment this teleport comes in, Zeus is obviously later on the back, so needs a bit more time, and Aiming and BDD are low health, and things look dire. But then again, look at Keen and Lahen's here. Look at how much space they're buying, Cuz going in. And hats off to the KT front line there. Keen doesn't even have to give his life, but Lahen's and him enabling a BDD and Aiming to get throughout the entirety of that one. That is going to be, with GA again, still up.
Yeah, now he's got it for Baron. BDD is excited, as you should be, as they take an extremely dominant win over T1. And I'll steal this for Mox. Imagine if they didn't have Chemtech Soul. What if this one was Infernal Soul? The game would be so over. It would not even be funny.
Oh, Zeus is going to get seen.
Okay.
Doesn't know.
Zeus spotted. They will try to turn onto him. The stun comes down, and the Croc is alive for now. And he nearly takes out Aiming, actually. That was kind of closer than I thought it was going to be. Aiming, he's going to dodge that one just barely. Could have been the end of his GA. As now, no top laner here for T1, but they do stop the Baron of KT, who are trying to regroup up. Thankfully, we have that plant to give aiming a fresh life here in this fight, as T1 are like, wait, how do you have full health? Well, it's due to the plant. Thank you, Chemtech Soul, as Gumayusi is being zoned off of this one, has to ult just to try to get away. KT are running him down the top lane to their deaths. Double kill for Zeri, make it a triple, I believe. It might be at the end anyway. It's going to be the end of T1 as KT roll over them on the top lane.
And this game is done and dusted, VODS. T1 try desperately to deny the Baron to their opponents, but it is not going to be the case. And KT, they're not going to get caught off guard. Zeus stays alive for a remarkable amount of time, but doesn't matter. Still ends up going down. And as you point out, even if aiming gets hit there, it's just a GA, and Keen is up 7 levels. To Keria, so unsurprisingly, it's not a good time for the support of T1 here, and the proactive play you might have expected from T1, nowhere to be seen. It's all KT from start to finish. And everyone on the roster looking amazing as they win the fight, they get the Baron, and they secure, at this point, surely game number 1.
9-0-2 now for the Zeri, who again still has not lost her Guardian Angel. Nearly 20,000 damage in this game that had relatively low action, but now it's got at least 14 kills in it, the majority of those in the hands of Aiming, who is now on 4.5 items, 30 minutes into the game, and he has well and truly made this game about him. We had the Zeri moment on the first Drake. I believe it was the first Drake. Either way, the first or the second one, and now he's just carrying the game, right? So what are they going to do about the Zeri? I don't think there is much to do about it with this Baron buff ticking away as they are taking down the turrets on the map.
And we see Oner trying to defend here. More than enough people ready. They do spot Keen, but not even Lamb's Respite is going to give you any safety with the amount of displacement available for KT. Now they can just shove. Collapsing on Keen is basically impossible. Case in point.
Wait.
Yeah. I think Keen cares.
They like root him, stun him, do a bunch of damage from like 3 people. He's at full health. Well. Chemtech Soul, Chemtech Drake shielding really coming into effect there, as KT Rolster just looking to take down all of the map at this moment in time, as Zeus is going to get bopped away. Keen just says no, essentially, as the damage is coming in. T1 are looking for this engage. The Pop Blossom is there. The damage on a Cuz. They do 100-0. The KT jungler, is it enough is the question. They didn't get the Zeri. And the Zeri is really the problem, as Aiming is flashing in, does not care about the Nautilus. What is going on? This is a straight-up domination from Aiming from the side of KT Rolster, as Lehens is laughing in front of the fountain of T1. This was an absolute boppening of a game. 12,000 gold the lead to KT Rolster as they take game number 1.